Learn this afternoon's breaking news as we are in advanced stages to sign the new Didier Drogba for 10 million euros. Learn everything you need to know about our imminent signing in David Datro Fofana. And to end things, we discuss January striker options as Atletico Madrid's offer both Matheus Cunha and Joao Felix on loan to Chelsea for this window. We have a ton of things to break down and discuss. They're saying in January we could sign between 3 to 4 players, and already it seems like we're getting the first piece of business ready in time in Datro Fofana. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Smash the like button, get involved in the comments, and share your thoughts and opinions behind who we should sign in the January window. To get straight into things, so right now, let's break down and discuss all the latest news behind our imminent signing in David Datro Fofana. Now, these reports were first broken and confirmed by Fabrizio Romano, and in his tweet he states that we have reached an agreement with Molde to sign him for 10 million euros. The final thing left now is reaching a personal agreement with the player, and on a curious one, I'm wondering if he will be loaned out, or if he does actually join our first team, but maybe like share his duties with the under-23s as well as the first team. I mean, I would not be surprised by something like that, but regardless, this news has been later supported and confirmed by the Athletic, plus a ton of publications across Europe and the UK. Reports have stated that we have beaten Brighton to the signature of Fofana, but Brighton were really following him for a long time and were looking to place a bid to try and sign him. But is it any surprise that we've beaten Brighton to a signature, considering that we've signed so many coaches and staff from Brighton? With one name in particular being Paul Winstonley, who was like the director of transfers at Brighton, and he signed for us as our global director of talent and transfers. So it's quite obvious that that knowledge pool, that scouting knowledge pool that he had at Brighton, he'll be bringing to this club. And I think it makes a lot of sense. I think that with us, realistically, we're not that club right now that can sign your next Mbappes, your next Neymars, your next Ronaldos. We're not on that level right now. So instead of maybe paying around like 50, 60 million for first team players from your Brighton's, I mean, look at Cucurella for example, doesn't it make sense to use your scouting network to sign the next big up and coming things before anyone knows who they are? We had a history doing that previously. We cast our minds back to last decade where we signed guys like Courtois, players like De Bruyne, lots of unknown names and talent that no one really knew about in Europe. And look at how these guys developed in the end. So I'm definitely here for a strategy like this, and for me it makes things quite cost effective because then there's no real massive gambles if you're signing top talents for under 10 million. I think it's that real, you guys. But regardless, I think now is the time to actually break down his game, how he plays, his strengths, his weaknesses, and what you guys can expect from Fofana. Fofana is 19 years old and he plays up front for Molde, where they use a 5-3-2 system. So in a system like this, Fofana isn't really involved in the build-up phase. He has to be an option inside the box, and I guess it's really no surprise that most of his goals come from within that 18-yard box. But also at the same time, Fofana has to be an option out wide in the channels where he can use his skill and he can use his pace and behind as well too. So considering that he isn't really involved as much and he's already scored like double digits for goals already for Molde, to do this at 19 years old when he's only been in Norwegian football for 1 year after signing from I think Abidjan City on the Ivory Coast, for me, he definitely has the talent and he definitely has the potential. Now, obviously coming from the Norwegian league, there's a lot of comparisons already with Erling Haaland. I can see the similarities, you know, both strikers have explosive speeds, very explosive, and they can like kind of manipulate their speeds. That's what the top players can do. They can kind of slow the game down a little bit and then quickly accelerate in those first few meters, which is like one of the best skill sets to really have. I think we saw this expertly from Mbappe and Messi in this World Cup already. And also like Haaland, they do have very good physicality for their age, you know, very good upper body strength as well, and a lot of explosiveness behind their game too. But for me to just focus on a few like smaller details of Fofana's game, I like how he's able to like change direction at top speeds, just like that. I think that's a skill set that's ideal for the Premier League. And he finds very good positions inside the box for making late man runs. For me, I could see him develop to become like a complete forward that can lead the line, running behind, you know, drop deeper to bring his teammates into the game. And at the same time, I could see him develop to become more like a wide forward. Of course, comparisons to Didier Drogba are going to exist, but I will say this though. When Drogba first made his name, he wasn't playing as a target man straight away. He was playing on the shoulder a lot of the times, and it was something he added to his game as he develops over the years. I think Fofana definitely is moldable and definitely has potential to grow. At the same time though, I don't want to gas things up completely. He has to improve in aspects of his game, and that's natural because he still is a teenager. Of course, I'd say things like his finishing could improve. He's actually underperforming in his expected goals, and the fact he's still getting double digits says a lot about his ability, but that is something that he can fine-tune and improve even more. I'd say that he could definitely improve his defensive off-the-ball work. I think for me though, that's actually the job of the manager, to be able to instill that type of discipline into their players, but he isn't really tasked to like press from the front. But to make it in the Premier League, I'm sure that's something he will be open to and something he can learn. And of course, naturally, things like maybe being a bit too overexcited or over dribbling, details like that can be fine-tuned as the player grows and develops. But right now, you guys, I want to show you some graphics behind this game to just show you even more details behind why I think he could be a very moldable and exciting talent. As you can see, his expected goal contributions, he ranks in the 92nd percentiles. His shots per 90, he ranks 93rd in the Norwegian league. Look at things like touches inside the box as well too. But for me, it's the small little details in his game, like aerial duels won. I think that's something he can learn to develop even more, and he could become an amazing advanced forward leading the line. His carries, he's not as involved in the build-up phase, but those times where he is deeper and can use his dribbling skills and technique, you see the footwork, you see the change of direction, and that consistency at being his man. And I think to rank that high for carries is a very, very nice talent to have in his skill set. Progressive actions, very high as well too. And in terms of his use of the ball, in terms of dangerous passes and received passes, that can improve, but there is something there to work with. And the area entries in terms of like the positions he's finding himself in the box too. So I can understand why this guy has a lot of potential. He's more than just a poacher. He's not one-dimensional. There's hidden aspects in his game that can be unlocked if he's playing in a better team with better players around him. And for 10 million euros, I think he's definitely worth the gamble and definitely worth the risk. So that is all the news behind our potential imminent signing in David Datro Fofana. Share your thoughts and opinions. And do you think he could become our new Didier Drogba? Let us know below. So right now, let's end things with a massive report surrounding more attacking options this January, courtesy of the Evening Standards. And they report that Atletico Madrid are open to either loaning one of Matheus Cunha or Joao Felix to us. Now, before Broya was injured, it's been reported that Felix has been pushed into the market, and Atletico Madrid have been asking for fees of around £86 million. I think that money is ridiculous. If you go to transfer market, his valuation currently is around 50 million euros. So, wow, I mean, from being worth 120 million to now 50 million euros, it's quite clear that the market isn't rating him the same as they used to. And potentially, I think something can be done in terms of a loan move. Realistically, right now, the club are deciding between long-term offensive targets and short-term offensive targets. I think that balance is key and it's important. Ideally, in my opinion, I would go for someone short-term right now and focus my attentions for the next summer window where for me, that's where the long-term heavy hitters have to be signed. Personally, I do think Joao Felix would be someone I would definitely take on loan for the second half of this season. I think the Premier League will be completely different for the second half now that it's restarting compared to prior before the World Cup. And I think Joao Felix could bring some imagination and spark to this team. So I'm going to share some thoughts and opinions. I can understand some of the reservations people will have on Joao Felix, but I want to provide some insight and give some context. Of course, naturally, if you're not like lighting the world on fire at Atletico Madrid, the easy assumption is that you're a flop and you're overrated and you're not that guy that people thought you were. But I do think that his situation is more unique at Atletico Madrid, and I just don't think that Simeone has really done anything to get the very best out of his game. And I think it comes down to crucial details. I'd say number one, Atletico Madrid's midfield is not as good as it used to be. I think Koke isn't the same player anymore. They don't really control games, they don't really dominate possession. You'll watch them play games against bottom half La Liga teams and they'll be sitting back and defending. If you're a Joao Felix, and for me, Joao Felix is the ultimate free roll style player. You give him that creative license and let him decide where to be on and off the ball. He knows what he's doing, he's a top talent. We've seen what he's done for Portugal in the World Cup. You're not doing that by accident if you don't have the talent. So when you compare how the Portuguese players are finding Joao Felix in certain positions, this does not exist at Atletico Madrid. I feel like the midfield players do not find Joao Felix in good areas and positions on the field. And on top of this, you guys, I just feel like Atleti are extremely rigid. Like, they don't really push many men forward as much. There's no real fluidity in terms of how they attack. It's very much like you stay in one position and you remain there. And when you have a player like Felix that relies upon expression and creativity and freedom, it's not really going to work. Especially when you're training him to improve on his defending, which he has got better at, but everything else in this game hasn't really gone to that next level. And for me, he is being capped playing for Atletico Madrid. The Joao Felix that we have seen at this World Cup is a lot more of a fair and accurate representation of what he can bring. And for me, you know, he can play anywhere between the lines, but ideally, I guess more of like a false 9 second striker type of role, which could be very complementary in regards to the players we have in this squad already. I do think that maybe some people are writing off Joao Felix and not really understanding the context behind his situation. But moving on to Matheus Cunha, another player that has been offered. Again, I feel for this guy, you know, very talented in the Bundesliga. He was very good last season for Atleti, playing as like the impact sub. But to develop, you need game time. And it's a bit of a weird one because Cunha is very aggressive with his pressing. He's got like a warrior type of spirit. He's got very good footwork. He can play all between the lines. He can play up front. He can play behind. He can play with the striker. I feel like he's one of those guys where if he goes to the right club, he'll definitely shine. He'll definitely prosper. And considering that he could be like an interesting short-term target for now, I wouldn't completely be opposed to that. But ideally, if Joao Felix is available, I would take that risk and try and sign him. Atletico Madrid would accept a loan fee, a very big loan fee, with an option to buy at the end of the season too. An option to buy doesn't tie you down to having to guarantee the signing of the player after that loan spell. I do think that Felix could be like very interesting offensive glue. Of course, we have someone similar in Kai Havertz, but I think with these modern attacking players, we have to realize that they can kind of play anywhere across the attack, but it's more about how you use them and how you get the best out of their strengths. That is the most important thing, and I do think that Felix could have something interesting here in the short term now with your Havertz's, Mount, Sterling's, etc. So they're my thoughts and opinions, you guys. That is the news that's broken today. Share your thoughts and opinions, and on that note, I'm Nini FC, this is Blue Lions TV. I'll catch you guys later with some more videos. Cool.